All right, today we are pulling back the curtain on something fascinating and, yeah, pretty controversial. It's a financial game called Carbon Credit Arbitrage.
Think about that for a second. That quote really gets to the heart of what we're digging into here. A world where the right to pollute, well, it can be bought and sold. It's created this market that is just absolutely exploding in value and, let me tell you, complexity.
And that's not an exaggeration. This is it. This is the new gold rush. We're talking about a high-stakes game where massive fortunes are being made, right at that crazy intersection of climate policy and high finance.
So just how big are we talking here? I mean, what kind of scale are we really dealing with? Honestly, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Okay, get this. According to Bloomberg, we could be looking at a global carbon market worth $22 trillion by 2050. I mean, that's just a staggering number. And a market that big, it doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It literally creates a whole new asset class. We're talking about ripple effects that touch everything from massive global investment strategies all the way down to the ETFs that might be sitting in your own retirement portfolio.
And here's the engine driving all of this. You've heard about the race to net zero, right? Well, as companies and governments all over the world make these huge promises, they need a way to, balance their carbon books. And that has created this insane, unprecedented demand for these credits. It's turned them into a red-hot commodity.
Okay, so if we're going to understand the game, we've got to understand the currency. So let's break it down. What exactly is a carbon credit?
The easiest way to think about it is like this. It's basically a hall pass for pollution. Seriously, if one company pollutes less than it's allowed to, it gets these extra hall passes. It can then sell them to another company that's gone over its limit. The whole idea is to create a financial incentive, right, to make it profitable to reduce emissions.
And this whole concept isn't brand new. It actually dates all the way back to the Kyoto Protocol in 1997. But what is new is how dramatically the stakes have been raised. I mean, we're seeing prices hit record highs, those big net zero deadlines are getting closer and closer, the pressure is on. And whenever you have that kind of pressure, you also get a massive financial opportunity.
All right, now we get to the juicy part. This is where the real money is being made. It's all about arbitrage. It's a classic Wall Street move, really. You find the same thing being sold for two different prices in two different places, and you exploit that gap. Simple, right? Buy low, sell high.
And here's where the opportunity is just staring you in the face. You've got these two totally different markets. On one hand, you have the official government-regulated compliance markets like the one in the EU. They're mandatory, they're strict, and the prices are high. But then you have the voluntary markets. And folks, this is the Wild West. It's driven by corporate PR, there's not a lot of standardization, and crucially, the prices can be dirt cheap. And that gap in price, that's the gold mine.
Let's walk through how this actually works. Picture a trader. They spot this massive price gap. So, step one, they go to the voluntary market and buy, say, 100,000 cheap credits from a reforestation project in Brazil. Step two, they go through this really complicated certification process to upgrade those credits, basically making them legit for the stricter EU market. And then, step three, they turn around and sell those exact same credits in Europe for maybe 10 times what they paid for them. And the result of that one play? A cool $4.5 million in profit from one single series of trades. That is the power and, the allure of carbon credit arbitrage.
So who's in on this? Well, it's not just the big corporations trying to look good and meet their goals. Oh no. You've got the heavy hitters of finance diving in. We're talking hedge funds, investment banks, these super specialized carbon brokers. They're all treating carbon not as a way to save the planet, but as the next big commodity, something to be traded, just as volatile and profitable as oil or gold.
But, and this is a big but, there is a dark side to this whole game. Because this mad dash for profit, it comes with some very real and often very hidden costs.
And this is the question that just changes everything, isn't it? When you see millions of dollars being made by trading permission to pollute, you have to stop and ask, is this system really working for the planet, or is it just working for the traders?
And the criticisms they're really serious. And its worst, it's just greenwashing, right? Companies buy a bunch of cheap credits to look good, but they avoid making the real hard, expensive changes to their operations. Then you have these questionable projects that, when you look closely, don't actually deliver the carbon reductions they promised. You've got big players who can manipulate the market. And then there's this idea of green imperialism, where all the profit from projects in developing countries gets sucked up by wealthy nations. And the local people, they see almost none of it.
Let's make this personal. Take the story of a farmer named Zhuang. He gets paid to turn his land over for a carbon offset project. Sounds good, right? Well, the credits generated from his land get sold for millions to some huge corporation overseas. But here's the catch. Buried in the fine print was a rule that meant he couldn't farm his own land anymore. So now he's struggling to even feed his family. That right there is the human cost.
So, okay, the system clearly has some massive flaws. But here's the thing. Carbon credits aren't going anywhere. They're here to stay. So the real question now is, what do they become? Now, there is some hope for fixing this. A lot of people are looking at technology as part of the solution. You've got blockchain, which could create transparent, tamper-proof records for every credit. There's AI, which could help us verify if these offset projects on the ground are actually, working. And maybe most importantly, we're seeing new, tougher standards that are pushing companies to do the hard work first, to cut their own emissions, and only use offsets as a true last resort.
So that's the central challenge, isn't it? Can we wrestle this incredibly powerful financial tool back from being just a playground, a casino really, for speculators? Can we actually shape it into a real engine for climate action?
Because in the end, that's what this all boils down to. Is it a tool for the planet, or is it just a playground for profit? The carbon market is like a giant mirror. It reflects our true global priorities. And as this multi-trillion-dollar monster keeps growing, the choice of what it becomes, well, that's something we all have a stake in.